Namaskar, Om Shakti Hrim Namak Shivaya, Om Namo Narayana. The Narada Purana Part 4. True knowledge consists of the realization that Vishnu is everything. In this sense, bliss can be achieved through knowledge jnana. Knowledge needs the bedrock of faith, bhakti, to support it. Good actions, karma, give rise to faith in Vishnu. In fact, actions are the first step towards attaining knowledge. There are very few people who can embark on the path of knowledge straight away. In the final stage of knowledge, one realizes that Vishnu is everywhere in the universe, and there is therefore no difference between oneself and other living beings. This sense of union with Vishnu is referred to as yoga. A person who is thirsting for this sort of supreme knowledge is known as a mumukshu. There are certain traits that enable one to identify a mumukshu. He has no sense of anger or hate. He is not addicted to the senses, and he evinces pity towards all a living being. His mind is perpetually preoccupied with thoughts of Vishnu. There is another way of expressing the idea behind yoga. The divine soul is known as the Paramatman, and it has no form. As opposed to this, there are human souls known as Jivat-atmas. These are attached to individual bodies and egos. Yoga tried to overcome this illusion and establish the union between the Jivatman and the Paramatman. It is the truth that human soul is confined by the shackles of the body, but it is overcoming of this illusion that is important. This sense of union between human souls and the divine soul is true or supreme knowledge, referred to as Brahma Jnana. The path of yoga is aided by 8 techniques. The first of these known as yama, self-control. This requires non-violence, trustfulness, love, pity, and control over the sense. Jealousy and envy also have to be given up. And the second technique is niyama, practice. This requires meditation, chanting incantation, reading sacred text, and cleanliness. Yama and niyama purify the mind, as the body this enable one to meditate on the true nature of Vishnu. But meditation requires a proper posture, and this is the third technique of asana. There are 30 major postures are recommended for someone who is practicing yoga. The first technique is the pranayama, controlling one's breath. The control over one's breath aids the process of meditation. The fifth technique is known as pratyahara, withdrawal. This means the withdrawal of the mind for all sorts of sensual pleasures. The sixth technique is known as dharana, retention. One visualizes the identity of Paramatman and the Jivatman and retains this image of the identity in one's mind. It helps to concentrate one's mind on the image of Vishnu seated on a lotus flower. When one meditates continuously on this image, that constitutes the 7 techniques of dhyana, contemplation. There are 3 objects that are involved in the process of meditation. The person who is doing the meditating, the object of meditation, and the act of meditation. When all sense of distinction between these 3 objects is lost, the contemplation can be regarded as complete. When the final point of the contemplation is reached, one attains this 8th and final technique of samadhi, intense bliss. The Brahman is fixed in the mind of such a person, and he loses all other sense. A person who is devoted to Vishnu is eternally blessed. Many years ago, Brahman named Devamali lived in the land of Raivata. He was learned in the Vedas, pitiful towards the other living beings, and devoted to Vishnu. But unfortunately, he had many sons, friends, and wife to take care of. Making a living was difficult, and Devamali was constrained to trade in objects that no Brahmana should touch. He also interacted with outcasts. He thus committed many sins. After some years, two sons named Yajnamali and Sumali were born to Devamali with great care and perseverance. The father taught the son how to make money. By then Devamali himself had made a lot of money and had accumulated a lot of wealth. One day he sat down to count his wealth and discovered that he had millions and millions of coins. He thought to himself, I have made a lot of money. Look at the number of coins I have accumulated. Unfortunately, I have had to do this through evil means, by means of trading in objects that I should not even have touched. But it is not strange that despite all my riches, my thirst for more wealth remains unsatiated. This conclusively proves that it is the craving for riches that is the root of all evil. One continues to want more wealth even in one's teeth decay and one's skin gets wrinkled. A person who wants peace should give up all hankering after riches. I think that I have had enough. I should now start to think about life that comes hereafter. Thinking this, Devamali resolved that he would devote himself to the path of dharma. He divided his riches into 4 parts. He retained 2 parts for himself and distributed the remaining 2 parts to his son, Yajnamali and Sumali. With a view to acquiring punya, Devamali constructed temples and gardens and had ponds constructed. He went to the banks of the Ganga and donating alms. In this fashion he exhausted all his wealth. Eventually he went off to perform tapasya in the forest known as Vadrika Ashrama. In the hermitage there lived many sages. Devamali joined them in their meditations. He contemplated on the true nature of the Brahman. The sages gave Devamali plenty of good advice. One particular sage named Jananti taught Devamali the technique of yoga. It was through the practice of yoga that Devamali was freed of all his illusion. You will remember that Devamali had 2 sons named Yajnamali and Sumali. Yajnamali was the elder of the 2. Yajnamali divided whatever rich he had received from his father into 2 parts and gave 1 part to Sumali. But Sumali spent all his wealth on idle and evil pursuits. When his money was exhausted, he resorted to theft and robbery. Yajnamali tried to restrain his brother. Please mend your ways, he told Sumali. What are you doing is evil. Don't bring ill repute to our family. This words of advice only served to anger Sumali, and he took up a sword to kill his brother. But the city guards came and arrested Sumali before he could cause his brother any harm. Yajnamali used his good office to free Sumali. He divided whatever riches he then possessed into 2 parts and gave 1 part to Sumali. As had happened earlier, Sumali again spent this money on evil and idle pursuits. Sumali's friends and associates were evil and outcast. He was punished by the king and banished to the forest. When this happened, all his so-called friends deserted him. Yajnamali was righteous. He associated with holy people, donating alms and dug ponds. Soon his wealth was also exhausted, being spent on all these good pursuits. Yajnamali retired to a temple of Vishnu and there spent his time in worshipping Vishnu. By a curious quirk of fate, Yajnamali and Sumali died at the same time. A Viman arrived to take Yajnamali to heaven. While traveling in this wonderful vehicle, Yajnamali noticed that his brother was being taken to hell. Yama servants were beating Sumali and the poor fellow was suffering from hunger and thirst. Yajnamali asked Vishnu's companion, who had come to take him up to heaven, "How can my brother be freed of his sins?" "Let us tell you your story," replied the companions. If your early life you were born as Vaishyu, name it Vishwambhara. You were evil and committed many sins. You were so evil that you deserted your parents and all your friends in turn deserted you. Once you were hungry and thirsty and sought refuge in a temple of Vishnu. Your feet were dirty and when you tried to clean them, part of the temple also got cleaned. This was a punya that was credited to your account. Since you had no food, you fasted 4 hours a night, and in the morning you died of snake bite. But the little bit of punya was enough to ensure that you became devoted to Vishnu in your next life, when you are born as Yajnamali. So far as your brother is concerned, there is indeed a way to free him. Give him the punya that you had acquired as a result of cleaning part of the temple, and your brother shall go free. Yajnamali did as he had been bidden. Yama's servants immediately left Somali and fled. A wonderful Vimana came down to take Somali as well to heaven. The two brothers were delighted to see each other. So great was Yajnamali's punya that he did not have to be born again. But after spending some time in heaven, Somali had to be born again. In his next life he was devoted to Vishnu and performed only good deeds. Eventually he too was freed. Such is wonderful punya that can be acquired from something so trivial as cleaning a tiny part of Vishnu temple. A house where Vishnu is not worshipped is like a cremation ground, and a person who does not pray to Vishnu is like a dead body. Humans who do not worship Vishnu and do not revere the Vedas, Brahmanas and cows are like Rakshasas, demons. But devotion to Vishnu does not come automatically. It is itself earned through the punya of many lives. Even a little bit of devotion to Vishnu destroys the accumulated sins of many lives. This is irrespective of whether this devotion is consciousness or not. Inadvertent prayers to Vishnu also confer on the right to live in heaven. In Satya Yuga there lived a hunter named Kanika. He was a robber and stole other people's property. He oppressed others and killed hundreds of cows and brahmanas. He even stole objects from temples. So myriad were his sins that he would take millions of years to catalogue them all. One day the hunter went to the city of Subira. There was a temple to Vishnu there and a number of golden pots adorned the top of the temple. Kanika was delighted to see these golden pots. He thought that he would be able to steal a lot of gold. Accordingly, he entered the premise of the temple at night. A sage named Utanka was sleeping in the courtyard of the temple. Kanika decided that the sage was an obstacle to his stealing the golden pots. He therefore placed his feet on the sage's chest and prepared to behead him with a sword. Utanka woke up. "Why are you trying to kill me?" he asked. "I have done you no harm." People only kill those who have done them some harm. It is a sin to punish those who have not committed any transgression. One might commit sins to feed one's near and dear relatives, but the sins do not accrue to the accounts of the relatives. They are one's own. Relatives are meaningless. They did not last beyond an earthly life. It is only the papa and the punya that are carried over beyond death. This word struck terror in Kanika's heart. He begged forgiveness from the sage and became penitent. "It is my great good fortune that I have met you," he told the sage. "I am a sinner. What can I do to free myself? Where shall I seek refuge? To whom shall I pray? I must have committed many things in my early life to have been born as a hunter in this life. But who and alas, I have committed sins in this life as well. What has become of me? For how many lives more must I suffer?" So great was Kanika's shame and mortification that he died on the spot. Taking pity on the poor hunter, the sage sprinkled some holy water on the dead body. The water was holy because it had been used to wash the feet of one of Vishnu's image. Wonder of wonders, as soon as the sanctified water was sprinkled on the dead body, all of Kanika's sins were forgiven. A Vimana descended to take him up to heaven. Utanka was thunderstruck to see this wonderful happening. He started to pray to Vishnu. And Vishnu appeared before the sage and granted him the boon that he would be rendered free of all worldly bonds. Many years ago, there used to be a king named Dvaja. He was born in the lunar dynasty. The king was devoted to Vishnu. He got all of Vishnu's temple cleaned regularly. He made sure that lamps were lit in the temples at night. Dvaja also had a temple to Vishnu built on the banks of the river Reva. There too he made arrangements for the temple to be swept regularly, and he also made sure that lamps were lit in the temple at night. The king had a priest named Vitahotra. Vitahotra once asked the king, "Please tell me what is so special about cleaning temples and lighting lamps in them at night? There are many other tasks that are regarded as being sacred to Vishnu. Why do you devote special attention to this task?" "Let me tell you my story," replied Dvaja. The king remembered the story because he was a Jatismara. Many years ago in Satya Yuga there was a Brahmana named Raivata. The Brahmana had studied the Shastras well. Nevertheless, he acted as priest for people whom no Brahmana should serve as priest. Raivata was also cruel, and he traded in goods that no Brahmana should touch. Because of these evil ways, the Brahmana's friends and relatives deserted him. Raivata had no option but to wander around from country to country in a poor and diseased state. He finally died on the banks of the river Narmada. Raivata's wife was named Bandhumati. She too was evil and gave birth to a son named Dandaketu. This son turned out to be a sinner. He oppressed Brahmanas, stole other people's property, drank wine, and killed many living beings. One night Dandaketu happened to turn up at the temple of Vishnu. He decided to spend the night there, to claim a place for him to sleep at night. Dandaketu swept part of the temple with his clothing. Also, he did not realize it then. This act of piety pardoned many of his sins and gave him a lot of punya. The sinner then lit up a lamp so that he could see better, and this additional act of piety pardoned all his early sins. Meanwhile, the city guards arrived at the temple. They took Dandaketu to be a chief and killed him. But since Dandaketu had now acquired such a lot of punya, a Vimana descended and took him straight up to heaven. After spending some time there, he was born again as a king Dvaja. Dvaja told Vitahotra, "Now you realize the incredible amount of punya that I am accumulated by sweeping a temple and lighting a lamp advently. Can you imagine what the punya would be like if I did these things consciously? Thankfully, I am a Jatismara, and I remember events that transpired in my early life. No wonder that I devote so much of attention to the cleaning of temples and to the lighting of lamps there. I'm sure that your question is now answered." Vitahotra marveled at the story and became even more devoted to Vishnu. If one wants to overcome the miseries of life, one has to pray to Vishnu. There is no other way. Great punya is also acquired by serving those who are devoted to Vishnu. If a person serves Vishnu devotees, 21 of his ancestral generation ascend to heaven. All the gods and Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, are ever present in a house where Vishnu is worshipped. House where the basil tree sacred to Vishnu is planted is eternally blessed. Also blessed is a house where there is a shalagrama, Vishnu's image. Once Indra went to Brihaspati, the teacher of the gods, and asked, "I have heard that the gods change from Manvantara to Manvantara. Can you please tell me the names of the gods who have ruled early?" "I am not that old," replied Brihaspati. "I don't know the answer of your question. But there is a holy man named Sudharma. He knows everything and he is bound to know the answer to your question. Let us go up to him and ask." Accompanied by the other gods, Indra and Brihaspati went to visit Sudharma. After they had worshipped the learned man, Indra asked, "Tell me, what is the secret of your knowledge? Have you donated a lot of alms or performed many yajnas? Or does the secret lie in visiting tirthas and performing tapasya? Please also tell us about the various Manvantaras. I will first tell you about the Manvantaras, replied Subdharma. There are 14 such eras in one Brahma's day. Each such era is ruled over by a Manu, and the gods also change from one Manvantara to another. In addition, the title of Indra changed hands. The first Manu was Swayambhuva. The gods were then the Yamas, and the Indra was Shachipati. The second Manu was Svarashtisha. The gods were Paravatas and Tushitas. And the Indra was Vipashchita. The third Manu was Uttama. The gods were the Sudhamas, Satyas, Shivas and Pratardanas, and the Indra was Sushanti. The fourth Manu was Tamasa. The gods were Surupas, Haris, Suktas and Siddhas, and the Indra was Shibi. The fifth Manu was Raivata. The gods were the Amitabhas, and the Indra was Ribhu. The sixth Manu was Chakshusha. The gods were the Adyas, and the Indra was Manajava. The seventh Manu was Vaivasvata. This is the Manvantara that is now current. The gods are the Adityas, Vasus and Rudras, and the Indra is Purandara. There will be 7 more Manvantaras before the destruction. The eighth Manu will be Surya Savarni. The gods will be Sutapas, and the Indra will be Vali. The ninth Manu will be Daksha Savarni. The gods will be Paravatas, and the Indra will be Adbhuta. The 10th Manu will be Brahma Savarni. The gods will be the Vamanas, and the Indra will be Shanti. The 11th Manu will be Dharma Savarni. The gods will be Vihanganas, and the Indra will be Vrisha. The 12th Manu will be Rudra Savarni. The gods will be Haritas, and the Indra will be Ritadhama. The 13th Manu will be Ruchya. The gods will be Sutramas, and the Indra will be Devaspati. The 14th Manu will be Bhotya. The gods will be Chakshushas, and the Indra will be Shuchi. You also asked about source of my punya, continued Sudharma. I used to be a vulture and lived on a carrion. Once I was sitting on a wall that surrounded a temple of Vishnu. Suddenly a hunter arrived and shot me dead with his arrow. My dead body fell down on the ground, and a dog picked it in the mouth. Pursued by other dogs, the dog circled the temple. This act of piety freed me and the dog of all illusions and gave us a lot of punya. That is my secret. Indra wondered at this story and himself became a devotee of Vishnu. You have answered all our questions, the sage told Sutta. We are much obliged. There remains one final question. Please tell us about the 4 yugas and their characteristic. Sutta obliged. There are 4 yugas eras. There are known as Satya Yuga, Okrita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga and Kali Yuga. 4 such yugas constitute a Maha Yuga, and Maha Yuga lasts for 12,000 years of the gods. In Satya Yuga, Dharma reigns supreme and everyone is righteous as the gods. Each Varna pursues the duties that are prescribed for it, and people are devoted to Vishnu and to Tapasya. The law of 4 Ashram is meticulously followed and the Vedas are studied. In Treta Yuga the miseries of people increase. Also the dictates of Dharma continue to be followed. In Dvapara Yuga the power of Dharma diminishes and the Vedas have to be divided to disseminate the knowledge among humans. People start to lie and anger and hate start to become common. If yajnas are performed, they are always with some end in view, not because of selfless and altruistic reason. Life expectancies start to diminish. Kali Yuga is the worst of the 4 eras. It is extremely rare to find a righteous person. Yajnas also become rare. jealousy, vanity and hatred are, however, very common. People do not live for very long. Even the Brahmanas stop studying the Vedas. The kings who rule then are bad kings. They are obsessed with the idea of accumulating wealth. In fact, the word king conveys no meaning at all. Anyone who has many chariots, horses or elephants comes to be called a king. The Brahmanas become the slaves of the Shudras. The Brahmanas strive after evil pursuits and forever try to acquire the possession of others. Sons hate their fathers, students their teachers, and wives their husbands. People eat fish and meat. They even plough the banks of rivers to grow food grains. If cows are taken care of, that is only because they provide milk. No one likes a person who is devoted to Vishnu. Towards the end of Kali Yuga, no one even remembers the name of Vishnu. These evils have their effects and people live only after 16 years of age. There is drought and famine, taxes are higher, but because evil reigns supreme in Kali Yuga, a minor good act in Kali Yuga gives a lot of punya. The punya that takes 10 years to be acquired in Satya Yuga can be acquired in 1 year in Treta Yuga, 1 month in Dvapara Yuga and 1 day in Kali Yuga. The punya that required meditation and sacrifice in other 3 eras can be acquired through just chanting the name of Vishnu in Kali Yuga. Vishnu is salvation for everyone in Kali Yuga. Sutta told the sages, I have now finished reciting to you the whole of the Narada Purana. This is a sacred text. Someone who reads a single couplet from this Purana is forgiven all his sins. Someone who reads an entire chapter acquires the punya that can be obtained from wonderful yajnas. If this text is kept inside a house, ghosts and demons avoid the house. Arson or theft are never heard of in the house. Hold. It is recommended that 20 shlokas from this Purana be read every morning. The Narada Purana ends rather abruptly. In the other Puranas, the sages generally thank Sutta for his pains. There are no such couplets in the Purana. The glories of the Purana are also described much more perfunctorily. I don't think that you accept Sutta's advice and read 20 couplets from the text every morning. But if you have found the stories interesting, how about reading the Purana for yourself? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Radhe Radhe. Om Namo Narayana.